How to paint color gradients in the style of Georgia O'Keeffe. This is a tutorial on how to mix gradients of color. Gradients are gradual color shifts where color gradually goes from, let's say, red or magenta into yellow, going from red to red-orange to orange to yellow-orange to yellow, or green to yellow-green to lighter yellow-green all the way up to yellow. It can also involve a tint of a color where you take a color and gradually add white to it. It's a very important skill if you're learning how to paint flowers. So here I'm making 3 piles of yellow, a large pile, a medium pile, and a small pile. And to the smallest pile, I'm adding a little bit of magenta and I'm stirring it around. Now I'm going to take that brush without washing it and put it in the next pile. Stir that around, and then without washing it, putting it in the next pile. So I'm going to get 3 gradients of orange going from dark to light. And then I can actually go in between the colors and mix even finer gradients. But notice I'm not messing up my original magenta or my original yellow. I'm now wiping all the extra paint off my brush so that the brush is empty. I'm not washing it, I'm just wiping the extra paint off onto a piece of newsprint. Now I am outlining the petals all the way to the center of the flower so that each petal is distinct. And I'm going to now take the darkest color and I'm going to press down and lift up, going from the center out. So notice how my brushes end in sort of a dry, scratchy texture at the end. I'm lifting my brush up so that there's less paint load at the edge than there is in the middle. Now I'm taking my next color and I'm going over where it started to get dry and scratchy. That's where I'm starting. And notice how I wipe my brush off and now I'm blending the 2 colors. Now I'm doing my next color, starting wherever it gets dry and scratchy, that's where you start adding your next color. So each color has the chance to blend a little bit with the color right before it. And notice how instead of washing my brush, I'm merely wiping it off. Every time I want to blend 2 colors, I'm taking my brush, wiping it off, and taking the empty yet dry brush and using it to knit together the 2 colors so that there's a seamless transition from dark to light. Okay, and that's how I do one petal. Let's see that again. So I take my second lightest color and I go over the first color. I then take my third lightest color and go slightly over the second color. So there's an overlap where one color begins and the next color ends. Now I wipe off all the extra off my brush and I take the brush and I wipe it between the 2 colors to seamlessly knit them together. So there shouldn't be any hard line where 2 colors meet up. It should just gradually transition from one color to the next. And you'll see that again. There's the medium color, painted from the middle out. Careful of the direction of your brush strokes. You have to start at the center of the petal and go away from it towards the edge of the flower. If you paint left to right, it will look striped. If you paint from the center out, it will form a gradient. That's what you want, a seamless transition from one color to the next. When I'm done with my final petal, my next step is going to be to do the leaf. When I do that, I'm going to get a completely different paintbrush, so I don't have to worry about the colors from the orange mixing with the green. So now that I'm just about done with my flower, I'm going to just outline it to make the edges more distinct using the darkest color. Kind of pull out the contrast. Using the darkest color to trace around the edges of the petal. And then I'm going to get a totally different brush and do the exact same thing with green. I'm taking the very darkest color and I'm delineating the contours of the leaf, the veins and the edge of the leaf with the darkest color. And now I'm going to start mixing green with yellow and make several shades of lighter green. So I'm going to have a yellow green and a lighter yellow green and a lighter yellow green until it turns yellow. I'm starting with the darkest color, painting from the edge of the petal flower out. The reason why I would make that part the darkest is it's underneath the petal and therefore there would be a little bit of a shadow. But notice how I'm painting towards the end of the leaf, away from the flower petal, and I'm creating a gradient by lifting up my brush as I paint and putting the next color on top of, slightly on top of the first one, so there's some overlap. I'm not completely hiding the first color, I'm just overlapping it slightly, and then I'm wiping off my brush and taking the dry brush and blending where the two colors meet. If I find that there's not enough contrast, I can go back and make the darker part lighter. I can go to the end and make the lighter part lighter. And I can wipe off my brush and reapply the darkest contour lines to my design to get it just the way I want it to look.